Yo, what's good, everybody? Welcome to Unfair Sports, our special OSG Fantasy Report edition, where we take a pensive approach to the sports conversation. I'm your host, Jay, with our special co-host, the OSG. Thank you for checking us out here on YouTube, as well as wherever podcasts are downloaded and listened to. While you're there, please like, subscribe, rate us, and review us, and give us 5 stars. You think we deserve it? Man, it's just 5 anyway. Go ahead and gift it. So with that, what we're going to dive into on our fantasy episode is we're going to give you the top 3 quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, and tight ends and defenses to look at. And then we're going to give you some sleepers in each of those positions as well. Then wrap it up like we always do with the PHrozen features, our boldest predictions for the week. Hit us up on the Unfair Fan Line, 430-901-1906. Let us know what you think of the content. Let the OSG know how you did on your lineups, which ones you won with, which ones you didn't win with. Just give us your strongest opinions. Also, check us out on the Instagram at the OSG Report and at unfair_sports. OSG. What's going on, man?
Oh, ready.
How you feeling?
I'm feeling good. It's a good time of year, got 2 sport, got football going.
Yeah, we got basketball.
Going.
Yeah.
Kind of enjoying getting back into that. Really, kind of been ramping it up. So that's been
So you've been on that basketball.
I have
grind.
been on it. They kind of get the fix going until it gets NFL time again. Kind of give you something to do during the week. And
but you're a big baseball player too, aren't you?
I'm a big baseball player. So I think it's just like the daily grind. Honestly, I think at this point I'm just a fantasy.
You're
player.
degenerate. Yeah.
You're
just fantasy degenerate. Nothing wrong with that.
So
I mean, the goal is at some point do this for a living. So
and when you play every day, when you play basketball, you can kind of do it. You can do kind of stuff at a different vibe. You can play a little. We talk about those single entry stuff. You can actually really kind of narrow down NBA to just a few lineups. Like football, we kind of want to play all these stacks. We got different quarterbacks, different games to attack. Basketball, you can kind of trim it down a little bit.
Yeah, trim
as
the
the
fat.
day goes on. You trim the fat a little bit. So. Kind of like that daily grind there.
We may get some stuff with OSG on daily fantasy basketball too, probably at the beginning of the new year.
Yeah, after football.
As football is completely done, because it's enough research with football and that. So, of course, as I mentioned, we're going to jump into, we'll have some quarterbacks with your tops. We'll throw some stacks in that mix. Your top running backs with the stack with maybe a defense, and then do wide receivers, tight ends, defenses, and then the PHrozen features. But we're going to give you guys the top ones this week, change up the format, see if we could get you all some winners. So with that, let's go ahead and dive into the first one.
Yes.
Quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and talk about the quarterbacks this week for week 13. So OSG, who are you liking out there at the quarterback position so we can talk through this?
So first stack, I keep going right. I'm almost to the point where he's just like we talk about playing baseball, basketball, just Tom Brady up, top.
They're
He
playing Atlanta too.
He's in the dome, his favorite team to play against, and honestly, it's everybody's favorite team to play against.
It's true.
And
the defense puts out, man.
He kind of, in fantasy world, he busted because he didn't get the touchdowns at the end of the game. He only had 12 fantasy points, only had 1 touchdown. Still threw the ball 34 times. He didn't have to, but, Fournette kind of took that red zone down and then had the big plays. And I think that
Uncle Lenny dropped, 4 touchdowns?
Yeah, sometimes bad plays or bad games detract players from people. And I think he's in a great spot again, especially against Atlanta.
I'm only concerned about Tom is because we're getting to that point when Tom typically falls off. We're in December, end of the year, cold weather. He has a tendency of having more of his bad games around late November, early December. But the good thing is,
switch divisions. He's in the South now.
Say,
they're in the dome, and they're in the dome this week.
Warmth.
Yeah, they're in the dome this week.
Still concerned,
and it's just like a straightforward. And because we're talking about this as stacks because we know that Evans was put on the plan to catch touchdowns.
Yep.
Chris Godwin, and as long as Antonio Brown remains out, I think you can keep playing Gronk. Like honestly, that saved my stacks last week was just playing Gronk, and because I didn't have Fournette, I did go heavy on Gronk, and that really saved it. And when he's healthy, again, especially with no Brown, like those 3 receivers, Evans, Gronk, and Godwin, straightforward.
It's true. Like last year for Tom, especially, at the end of last season, He started December off with a 196-yard game. Then he went 390, 348, and 399. That's against Atlanta in Atlanta. So last time he played in Atlanta, he had 392 touchdowns.
Yeah.
In that dome.
Incoming again.
And then going to Detroit in the dome again, he threw for 348, 4 touchdowns.
Yeah.
And then Atlanta coming to the crib, he threw for 399 and 4 touchdowns.
Yeah.
So the way that it's looking, it's probably, like you mentioned, he's in the South. This should be a good week. We should expect him to give us 300 this week.
Yeah, and he's priced fairly. He's cheaper than Lamar. We talked about that. He's cheaper if Kyler in a bad spot if he plays. And so I think he's one of the better spins if you end up spending a little bit of money at quarterback.
Yeah, I'm looking at some of his old numbers. So whenever he's playing in the South, I mean, besides like in 2017, he had a bad game against the Dolphins. The Dolphins won that game. Playing in the South like 2 years ago in 2018, he threw for 358 in Miami.
So, that's for him to be playing where he was playing at for 20 years, not literally 20 years, but for him to be in New England that long, coming down there to some warm weather. I mean, he threw it in the snow.
That's true.
They didn't do it. They didn't run it in the snow. They out there throwing the ball.
Throwing it. Yeah, they're throwing it. Okay, so Tommy Boy's on one of them. Who else we got?
So that's where you kind of get a little tricky. You know, Stafford is in that same range as Brady. He's 100 and more. I like, you know, since they added OBJ, I kind of like how the offense. I like how this offensive set looks with Kupp and Van Jefferson and OBJ, and they get the date with Jacksonville, who's kind of up and down. So I think either of those two. But I think if you want to go down a little bit, you know, there's some. We kind of talked off camera about, I say it, you know, Derek Carr, right? When you think about the Raiders, but he's cheap. And, you know, is he the best quarterback on the slate? No. Is Kirk Cousins, who I like, the best quarterback on the slate? No. But between Stafford at home in L.A., with Cousins at Detroit and Carr at home in the Raiders, they're all in domes. Yep. And when you look at how cheap Carr is now, you can look at paying up at other spots. So is he just his best quarterback? No. But to stack him, because I really, you know, once we get to running back, you'll see where I want to spend my money at. Yeah. So it'll come down to roster construction. So if you're looking at the top three, I think that it's Brady and Stafford and a tie for Cousins and Carr. Okay. With some decent stacks. Because when you look at Cousins, straightforward stack with him, you know. Yeah. It's Jefferson and Thielen.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, and
he pads his stats. Who they playing against? Detroit too? They playing a bad team in Detroit.
And here's the thing, we talked about the tournament and the ownership things. Kind of like everybody wanted to play Brady in the passing game, and here goes Fournette. This week with Dalvin Cook out, everybody's going to want to play Alexander Madison, or at least they should want to play Alexander Madison. The two games that we'll get to him in running back, but they should want to. So that's naturally a pivot to look at the passing game. I mean, it's still Detroit. They still suck.
Yeah. So looking at the two that you mentioned, so looking at Detroit and looking at Kirk Cousins going against Detroit, and then Matt Stafford going against the Jaguars, it seems like potentially they're going to get up big early, and then the running game's going to come in and finish it. So to be honest, there is an opportunity to potentially play their running backs with this, because the running backs will probably kill the clock as the game goes on.
And, and if you want to poke holes in Cousins, when they played Detroit earlier in Minnesota, it was a 19-17 game. He threw 275, only had one touchdown. Awful. Not the best. Does the second game always end up like the first? Not necessarily. But we talked about these totals this week. Not very many pretty ones. I'm trying to get back to, they're only at 46.5 in Detroit. Tampa's a 50-point total.
Oh gosh, it's a high. Tampa Bay game's a high total.
And we talked off camera. We talked about, so the reason I like Derek Carr, you got a 49.5 total. The spread is tight at 2. He's at home. No Darren Waller, so. Easy
so
stack
far he's doubtful right now.
So you're looking at an easy stack. You're looking at Hunter Renfrow.
Yes,
you're considering Zay Jones, because we saw how Zay Jones looked on the Thanksgiving game against Dallas, especially once Waller went down. Yeah. He actually looked like a receiver.
That's true.
And while Deshaun Jackson only caught one pass, but we saw the speed. Still, at his age, one of the fastest guys in the
dome,
league.
You're going to get a deep play out of him.
Yep. So
that's most likely.
So that's why you can kind of look at Carr as a little off the board stack. He's only 6K, and that's just his numbers he may not necessarily catch Brady, because I think Brady's going to have a big game, but Carr could have similar numbers to Stafford.
Yeah. What's up with Edwards? I figured Brian Edwards would be better than he's so up and down. I mean, he gave us 4 double-digit weeks this season.
I don't think he's very fast.
He isn't. He's a possession
part of the problem.
guy.
Yeah,
you would expect, but Waller, I guess, takes that away from him because Waller's the possession guy.
And the times that Waller has been out, Edwards hadn't stepped up. It's really been Foster Moreau that stepped up at tight end, really. Like if you want an off-the-board stack or a double stack, you call Carr, Renfro, Moreau.
Makes sense.
And you ball out everywhere else.
That's a good point.
So that's some lineup construction 101 right there.
There you go. There you go.
Spin down.
Okay. Let's go ahead and run right into the running backs then. Okay. So we know this is going to be the week that we feel like is going to be everything on running backs.
Right, let's take the pain. Oh, here we go.
You ready for it? You feel it? You sound excited about running backs.
Man,
huh?
There's
this is the week you excited about.
To, they be like, oh, they take the condom off. So yeah, we're ready.
Let's go. Let's dive in deep.
Yeah.
So looking at the optimizer for this week, a lot of running backs. We talked about this pre-production. Elijah Mitchell's our top guy right now on the optimizer with my 100 lineups. You've got your boy Jamal Williams with Detroit. Looks like they're expecting a lot of running from them.
I love and hate him.
Daryl Henderson.
Hate him.
James Conner.
Love him.
And then we got Najee Harris at 5th with Alexander Madison right behind him. And a little bit of Myles Gaskin at 17%.
Okay. And so, again, line of construction where you're going to spend your money because I wouldn't, this could be a week where you want to throw a third running back in the flex this week instead of the receiver. And so I think the top 3 running backs, like the monsters of the slate, are going to be ones priced up. And that's Jonathan Taylor, and Jonathan Taylor. Low game against Tampa as to be expected, but the spot against Houston, I'll play a bum running back against Houston, and I think he's going to bounce back in a major way in this game. They're highly favored, which favors a running back. You get the lead, they pound them, and he just run all over. And the only reason not to play Taylor is, is price really this week.
Yeah, he's 92.
He's 92,
I think he's overpriced for what they're playing in Houston, so the weather's going to be favorable, of course.
Playing a lot of short field in this game.
But Houston's defense has shown up against a lot of running backs. I mean, they showed up against Derrick Henry, showed up against your boys James Robinson.
And it's a division game.
It's a division game.
So you poke holes in the plays.
But in the Dome in Indianapolis, when Jonathan Taylor saw them last time, he did rush 14 times for 145 and 2 touchdowns. Mm-hmm. So I think that's his number's that high because he put up 31 points against them the first game.
Yep. And it's still high from his 5 touchdown performance, of course.
Right. Right. But you're right. I mean, I get, of course, that's an addition, but I'm thinking more so they tuned him even more up because they saw what he did last time, and he's on a streak.
Yep.
So they're expecting him to keep that bad boy going.
So if you want to get off Taylor, I think that Joe Mixon is my favorite running back play this week.
Oh, my God.
I play, again, take it off. Like, just take it off right now.
Take it off. Just go. Go right in.
Go raw. We talk about every week that whoever's playing the Chargers at running back, we didn't have the show, but in the article, I said this is the week to play Javonte Williams.
Yes.
And even though he was in the timeshare with Melvin Gordon, and yes, this long pass helped him, but again, it doesn't matter. I don't care how they get there.
Yeah.
Every running back that plays them has 20-plus fantasy points, and if, he's touched the ball 62 times in the last 2 weeks, Joe Mixon. God. And he's even getting targets, and so it's like it's like a no-brainer play.
So is there a chance that Joe Burrow will they'll end up having him do more this week because they've given the ball so much to Joe Mixon?
I don't think so. I think they get into the games, and I think that when you really watch them play, they kind of one of the teams that really just like to go attack a team's weakness and kind of control the game. Yeah. They'll slow it. They'll get the Joe Burrow do a little bit. Yeah, he'll come out, and if they throw and he gets this touchdown, the chase gets it to Higgins early, here comes Mixon after that. Or if they throw it and they don't get in the end zone inside the 10 or 8, here comes Mixon.
That's true.
And, of course, the pass game is, but, everybody's been we've been playing Burrow, we've been playing Chase, we've been doing it, and they keep failing. And that is because they're running the football.
That's a good point.
With Joe Mixon, they try to win this division, and, it's a winnable division still. They're not out of it. And I think they ride in the hot hand. Like, Mixon's just been, he's not priced for. If he was, I was listening to somebody earlier and they said if Christian McCaffrey was in this spot, if Jonathan Taylor was in this price, what would their price be? Especially for the way he's been running the ball lately.
That's true.
Even saw 4 targets last week in the romp stomp of Pittsburgh. And even on the other side of the game, like I think that even the Chargers are kind of moving fast paced and I think Austin Eckler is another pivot off Jonathan Taylor.
So we got so who's your top 3 right now so far? We've got Joe Mixon.
So if I had to count my top 3, I'm going to say what you haven't even talked about. So Joe Mixon, Alexander Madison is really my second favorite play, and the only reason, like I said, is really with Taylor is just price only. It's just price.
Yeah.
So
Jonathan
if you can fit him, you don't even have to. I don't have to tell you all that.
Yeah, the logic is already there. If you're going to go ahead and build around Jonathan Taylor,
That's
grab
fine.
a cheap quarterback.
That's fine.
Some cheap wide receivers and build around him. But
so Mixon, I think Madison going back against Detroit. He's played. We talked about. I went off camera. The 2 games that he started for Dalvin Cook. One of them happened to be against Detroit. 25 carries, 113 yards, caught 7 balls and a touchdown. That was against Detroit, and that's why Cousins didn't get there. And then against Seattle, 26 carries, 112 yards, and caught 6 passes. That was against Seattle. Those are his 2 starts, which leads me to the 3rd best running back. You said the top 3.
Yep.
That's going to be Elijah Mitchell in that same spot that Alexander Madison crushed. Debo is out.
That's a good
they're
point.
They're down to Mitchell. They don't like Sermon. I kind of think, I'm not sure, is Jeff Wilson coming back or is he still out? He's there.
Yeah.
But it's still he loves Elijah Mitchell. He had a half broke finger last week and they threw the ball well, he had a surgery and wanted to play him the last game.
Yeah.
And then he comes back with a dislocated finger, 27 carries, 133 yards and a touchdown.
And Joe Mixon's doubtful anyway, so yeah.
Yeah, so who's doubtful?
Trey Sermon.
Yeah, and he doesn't play anyway.
Trey Sermon's out. I said Joe Mixon. I mean Trey Sermon. I'm looking at Oklahoma running backs.
Yep, so Mixon, Madison, and Mitchell. And you talked about Jamal Williams in your builder. I don't like him. I would prefer, because I just don't like Detroit. I think I'm just done playing anybody plays for the Detroit Lions.
Makes
They're
sense.
0 forever, and they just suck. But I think that if you want to go cheap, I think you could do worse than Antonio Gibson this week. He's in that shootout against the Raiders.
Right.
So sometimes you just play pieces, kind of like I wrote in the article, even though I didn't play him that much. I said Fournette, he gets so much volume and targets, you play everybody in the stack of that game, because I was wanting to stack the Tampa, which it did shoot out.
Everybody that plays for Tampa, you basically
touch them. So I think the same thing in the Washington game. We love McLaurin, Logan Thomas coming back, but don't forget Antonio Gibson, because McKissick is out and Gibson's getting all the targets. He's getting all the touches.
That makes sense. Makes sense. What do you think about Miles Sanders as a sleeper because of how much Philadelphia runs the ball?
Yeah, he fell out of the game with a little bit of an ankle, but it looked like he's coming back. And then Boston Scott came in. He fumbled, but Boston Scott has a Thursday at 6, so I think that, and it looks like Jordan Howard's not going to play.
Both Boston Scott's sick. Jordan Howard's got that knee, and it looked like he may not play.
Not going to play. Yeah,
and then Jalen Hurts has got a hurt ankle.
Yeah, so I think that you can play. I think you can play any 2 of those running backs. Like, the more that Hurts is limited, that maybe mean he's not running as much. And they're obviously wanting to run. They're going to run the ball 30 times a game.
They have to.
And the Jets is the worst rush defense in the league.
Yep.
And I think that's
by a wide margin.
Yeah, it was like by, like 10 points the worst, to number 2. And so I think that you can really look at Miles Sanders or Boston Scott. And if for some reason, like Boston Scott, like is really sick and can't play, I think you can smash Miles Sanders. I really do. He was on his way there until he got hurt last week. 9 carries, 64 yards.
The Jets are 32nd in rush. Yeah, it's efficient. That's very efficient. The Jets are 32nd in defense this season, so there's a great chance that they'll be.
And I've been chasing these Eagles running backs every week. I've been chasing them.
Because
they keep running. Because they just keep running. And,
and
at some point, Jalen Hurts is not going to run all the touchdowns in the red zone. At least we think. But if he's kind of banged up, a little ankle, maybe he don't run it 5 less times in the red zone.
Makes sense.
Because they're going to be in the red zone against the Jets.
Oh, a lot. The only other player I think that we should probably consider a quick talk about before we move on is going to be your boy Cordell Patterson.
Against Tampa.
I don't like him at 7,000. I feel like that's a little high price for this Tampa game.
But this is the highest. They kind of use him in so different, because he doesn't even play all the snaps.
Yeah.
It's just that when they come in, when he put him on the field, they're running some design play for him. And so I think the other guy to throw out there, I hate the weather in this game in Chicago, but as long as Chase Edmonds out, James Conner's just a lone running back in Arizona. Like, he's catching the ball, he's running the ball. If Kyler plays, which he's practicing, but again, if they don't want to run it with him as much, especially in the red zone, and it's raining, if they can move the ball, so take away the weather, and I think James Conner is a great play against the Bears.
I give him a nod because of the weather. The only fear I have is, of course, turnovers. Typically when it's rainy, helmets hit the ball. There's going to be a fumble here.
It's
and
a rough
there.
game,
but he does hold the ball well.
Yeah, James Conner's an efficient running back. He's going to, and he's a guaranteed 20. Like, we're looking for volume at the running back spot.
Yeah,
you got to get opportunity. You can't get the big plays all the time like receivers, and so Conner 20 touches.
So who's going to be the top running back in this game then? Is it going to be Latavius Murray or Devontae Freeman for Baltimore? Who do you think? Which one do you think is going to be the running back that's going to get the most against Pittsburgh? Because Pittsburgh gave up a lot of booty to Joe Mixon last week.
They did.
Even though week to week you can't expect teams to produce the exact same way.
True.
Because this is the NFL. There are adjustments that are made. Defenses get better. They think differently.
Everybody saw the same tape.
Exactly.
I kind of lean.
But we are talking about Lamar Jackson.
Freeman. I kind of lean in Devontae Freeman in that because I hadn't even really considered much, on the Murray aspect when you really look at him. Latavius Murray, go back to his last game log, because even when he came back, he only 8 carries last week.
Yeah, he only had 8 last week.
Freeman had 16 touches. I kind of lean Devontae Freeman, and it's a good matchup if they run it, and I think if they can get control of that game.
Yeah, Freeman has double-digit carries the last 4 weeks, so they're putting the ball in his hands.
Yeah, and when we get to receivers, I kind of like the passing game for Baltimore in this spot.
Okay.
But if you're picking, though, Freeman.
So, speaking of picking, OSG picks out all the best plays every week on the actual OSG report written on the Medium page.
Yep.
Feel free to check it out. It's going to be at osg.medium.com. You'll see it right up. You'll see it also on our Unfair page. Follow us on Twitter at Unfair Sports. We'll have it posted there. That way you can get all of the plays that make sense over the next couple of weeks. So with that, let's dive into our wide receivers. So with this one, let's look at the top 5. Because we're going to have more wide receivers. Typically, we have 3 and traditionally a flex. If you don't put a running back there, probably go top 5. Go ahead and add your 5. And let's look at some sleepers here, too. Because I think that's going to be the key thing for you all. It's going to be those lower price guys to stack with a Jonathan Taylor, to stack with your other high-end running backs like an Austin Eckler or Joe Mixon. Even though they're only in the 8,000 range, you want to make sure that you have... You got to field position. So we're going to look at some of these value guys along with your top. So let's top 5
So the top 5, which will include, because I kind of grouped them in stacks. So the top 5, I mean, Cooper Kupp for the bounce back game. Bad game gets the Jacksonville matchup. If you don't want to spend that, I think you pivot to a price saver in Van Jefferson and OBJ. Like, I think, because if we like Stafford, when you like these quarterbacks, the natural thing is to look at their receivers and who you can stack them with. So I think going back to Kupp, the more that they tell us to play Darrell Henderson, the more I play the passing game.
Every week they say to do that.
It's the same thing.
Nope,
and they keep Kupp. Yeah, and they keep doing that. So even in a down game, it was just, again, with Kupp, it was the price. He only had 18 fantasy points.
And that's so expensive.
He's so expensive, but he is very expensive. And
he's $9,000, man. See, that's the biggest concern I've had with him is every week they're throwing his numbers up higher.
Yep.
And then he's slowly showing less production because of it.
And I think
slowly.
We talked about Stafford off camera being a little banged up. Maybe back.
Yeah.
Maybe
age, time, 13 years in the league.
He's a tough guy. He keeps playing. He's going to play through it. He's a tough quarterback.
And we always learn what happens when quarterbacks play through too much pain. They usually produce really bad stuff. So look out for turnovers with Stafford.
Yep. So next one. So that's top one there. Man, it's just, why would we stop? Even though Madison is going to smash, like Justin Jefferson every week.
Yes.
Like he's just... He's one of the best and most dynamic receivers in the NFL.
If there's anything that Kirk Cousins will do, he will get the ball to Jefferson and Thielen. And him and Stat Padford, they will always put up those numbers.
So a combination of Jefferson and Thielen is like the next, up top receivers.
I see that.
Thielen still, red zone targets. He's the best in the league. He's catching us where all his touchdowns is and all the targets, and it's so straightforward. And if Madison in any way doesn't get there, it's because they threw the ball. Yeah, they threw deep bombs to Jefferson, or they got inside the 20 and they hit Thielen, and that's pretty much it. In my Derek Carr stacks, I'm going to run it back with Scary Terry.
Okay,
he's a play anytime when you. He's just a receiver you can play without the quarterback. And
McLaurin is definitely he's starting to work his way out. Like looking at him over the last last couple of weeks. I mean, he's had over the last 5 weeks, he's had 224 plus outbursts. And then he's put up some single digits to go with it, with an 11 in the middle.
And the targets remain there when you look at those.
Yes, they're still throwing the ball. It's just isn't catching it.
Yeah, it's just up and down. Taylor Heineke's young. I like him. Think he's he's getting better, and so that's going to go up and down with him. Yeah, and then honestly, the last game against Seattle, which again, ding ding, Elijah Mitchell, they ran the ball. It was Gibson.
Oh, Gibson.
He ran. Yeah, he 26 carries for Gibson that game, plus I think he had 4 or 5 receptions. So again, ding ding, Elijah Mitchell. So when you look at these bad game logs for some of these guys, these receivers, look at the whole game, look at the team game log, because again, still 7 targets, they're only 51 yards. Just wasn't. Just
and last week against Dallas, the Raiders only gave up 64 yards rushing. They did give up a lot to Cincy, but they held Kansas City to 94 yards. But they traditionally put out 100 yards rushing, so that may be a deterrent from McLaurin, but I still think he is a good play.
Okay, so then you move down, and then Mr. Target Man himself, Keenan Allen. Just constantly, it doesn't stop, no matter how slow they're playing, no matter what's going on. Let me look at the targets. Look at the last 11 targets: 13, 11, 13, 10, and then he missed a game, he had 5, and then 9, 11, 12, 8, 13. This is Keenan Allen, and this is him every week. And asterisk tied for number 4 with him, we talked about him, was Deontay Johnson. You talk about targets, and even as bad as Ben was every week, look at Deontay Johnson's game log, however, 13 targets, 13, 13, 13, 14. And he almost got there last week. He had 9 catches for 95 yards, 5 yards off the 100-yard bonus. Yeah. Barely missed a touchdown, and that's in a blowout. That's in a blowout bad game against the Bengals. So so it's tough when you kind of like the Jamal Williams play. It's tough when you look at the team.
Well, that's the crazy thing about Deontay Johnson, is that Deontay Johnson scored double-digit points every week this season.
Yeah,
I didn't even realize it. He's been a solid, consistent, quiet producer.
Yes,
like with Pittsburgh,
Ben is so bad.
Yes,
and that's why we just.
And I've thrown all my money on Najee Harris because of how he's become captain check down.
Yes,
and he's actually getting rid of the ball, I think, at the fastest pace now. I think he's getting rid of the ball at 2.3 seconds from snap, which is obscene.
Right.
He's literally taking it and doing this.
Yeah,
that's his average. That's crazy.
Yeah. So Allen and Deontay Johnson hopping fourth, and then the 5th place stack, or the receiver set, is Mike. I was placed on the earth to score touchdown Evans, along with Chris Godwin on the side of him, and I think raw receivers against Atlanta. It's just crush. You might want to play both. And if you stack Brady, one lineup is Evans, one lineup is Godwin, and in both lineups you could probably double stack Gronk with him. By the way,
mainly because Brady's going to want to embarrass the Falcons. He has a thing about doing that.
And then especially when receivers have bad game, Brady go back and throw it to him the next game.
Yeah, he does.
And just for the fact Brady didn't
especially when they're good, the ones that you can tell that he likes. So there's a chance you can see Evans and Godwin getting a lot of love from Brady this week.
In the heat of the moment, I'm sorry, I don't threw it to you 4 times. We got you next week.
Yeah, I got you. And then next thing you know, he gets 15.
And Brady's so good that he can do that. Yes, they can go out and zero in on the receiver, and nobody can stop him.
No, you're not gonna stop that. Especially because these receivers are just as good as they are.
Yeah.
Yeah, since So week 7 and 8, Godwin gave us double-digit targets, but since then he's at 8, 6, and 5. So his targets have been going down,
and I think
mainly because defenses are watching him, and he was hurt.
The last 2 weeks, I think a lot of it has to do with Gronk coming back.
And
that's why I kind of think I continue
100%.
to keep playing Gronk like as a, I say Evans and Godwin, but like Gronk is really like he eats up a lot of targets.
He's a wide receiver tight end that you play every week if you can, because
and especially
he's just somebody
as long as which. Thanks to the COVID fiasco, Antonio Brown's gone another 3 games now.
Yep.
Even if he was ready to come back, he can't. So those are the 3 receivers is Evans, Godwin, and Gronk. For a quarterback that could very well throw 40 times against a terrible secondary.
And the funny thing is that you would think Uncle Lenny would get more touches in this. I mean, not to go back to the running backs, but it feels like Brady just likes to just continuously put the knife into the Falcons, and he wants to play and throw 40 times, even though it's a blowout.
Yeah.
So keep that in mind.
And we just need them to get in the end zone. That was the thing last week. Like I said, I had Brady stacks in money. It with no Fournette. Mainly it was Gronk. But I'm saying if he just gave me 1 touchdown to Evans, to tell you the truth.
I mean, honestly, I think I'm put together a Tampa lineup and just have all the Buccaneers that I can put on there with a whole bunch of cheap folk.
Yeah, I think you play Brady and a receiver in Gronk, Brady, Fournette, and Gronk. Because in tournaments you don't want to cap your ceiling. Because if one of them is hitting, that's kind of eliminating the spot. But you keep cycling them combinations. You mix them up. You put them in a shuffle and say, okay, I got Fournette with Evans, I got Fournette with Godwin, I got Fournette with Gronk, I got Evans with Gronk, I got Godwin with Gronk.
I wonder if Brady can put 100 yards on both his receivers.
Yes. The week that I hit that money and they had the $1 million lineup, it was Brady, Brown, because it was the game against Miami. It was Brady and Brown, and I kind of think it was Evans and not Godwin.
It was Godwin.
So it was a double. It was a double stack with Brady won $1 million, and it was Antonio Brown then. So I think you can play Gronk. I think two guys can get 100 yards.
Oh yeah, easy. Yes. And then you'll have Gronk score a touchdown.
Yeah.
So you'll be able to get 30 points from multiple dudes.
Gronk had 100 yards last week.
Oh yeah, I mean he has moments, but usually whenever there's multiple guys getting 100 yards, Gronk's getting all the touchdowns.
Yes, he can support. He can. That's the thing with Brady. He can support these receivers.
Hell yeah.
I was listening to this podcast. Bridgewater can't keep the value up on Sutton, Judy, and Patrick, and Fant,
I'm learning,
and 2 running backs out there. They can't do that.
Because he's not a volume thrower like
Brady
that.
Can get you. Brady can get him there.
So now this week,
we're gonna save a receiver.
I think it's time for a bounce back this week for Lamar Jackson and the Ravens. Agreed. He was atrocious on national television. Right. That typically leads to a big week the next week.
And maybe he was still a little. I don't know what his illness was that he got ruled out against the Bears. Maybe
the Hershey squirts again.
Maybe maybe it's just still a little. Maybe.
A little squirty.
Yeah, you never know. Like sometimes, you can, especially this time of year. It seems like Lamar be sick a lot too. By the way,
he's always. I don't know
sick. What that's about.
He's always sick. It's a tradition that
leave nasty girls alone. But anyway.
Exactly, but no,
maybe he's just sometimes this time of year it takes a couple weeks to bounce back completely.
Yes.
So I think it is, and if so, I think you go back to Hollywood and Bateman, and I really like Bateman again this week just for the price. Talk about saving some money.
Yes. So look at the savers.
That's a decent pivot. I think he'll be popular this week, but like Jalen Waddle, like that one that everybody's tournament, like that was Fournette and Jalen Waddle was the tournament plays of the week last week. But Waddle is Tua's guy. Tua's playing good.
He's getting back up.
And honestly, like I didn't go there on the low price stuff. I kind of have, we didn't talk about too many quarterbacks, but I kind of got like this Tua and Wentz thing for some cheap plays. And if you look
mix in with Waddle, Pittman, maybe Ty Hilton. T.Y. Hilton.
I like Pittman more, but again,
cheap because T.Y. Hilton's cheap right
but
now.
It is the Texans that they're playing against. So Doyle is bounced back. So can I hate you for it? No, because he's a guy in a game that a team is supposed to score 4 touchdowns.
Exactly. So T.Y.'s only 44. So price wise,
and he actually caught a touchdown last week. I think
he did.
I think he did. That's why the Pittman play and Taylor did
428 and a touchdown.
Yep. So cheap. So Waddle. I think for the cheap we talked about Carr, but Hunter Renfrow is. I think he's like moving up the list.
Yeah, he's a 58. So they're 50. Yeah, he's 58.
Yeah.
So they're pricing him up.
Yep. And then the frisky wide receivers in Las Vegas. If we really think Carr can get there in the shootout, I think you do look at Zay Jones or
that's a good point.
Deshaun Jackson is a little nicked up. So if he plays, I think you can look at either Zay or Jackson. So if you stack Carr again, you bounce him around. Play Renfrow, play Moreau, play Jones, play Deshaun Jackson. But I really like Renfrow. He's not the cheapest, but at 5'8", hey, target monster. Waller's probably out. There's targets to go around in this offense. They're playing a Washington team that we're not afraid of, and they at home in the Dome. You said Pittman if you throw Wentz out there. So 2 cheap guys. Well, I'm going to take one of them off the list because of the weather now. If Andy Dalton plays, I don't mind Darnell Mooney in that matchup. He's getting the targets.
He is.
A-Rob is not getting them. And with Dalton, they actually was pushing the ball downfield.
Good point.
And so I think as much as we all like Elijah Mitchell, so everybody's going to be building Elijah Mitchell.
Yep.
So if he doesn't get there, it's because of Brandon Ayuk this week with no Deebo Samuel.
Good point.
Seattle's done. They're 3-8. They're terrible.
Season's over.
Yeah, I mean, I hate it's a division game. We know how we feel about these NFC West games, but I think Brandon Ayuk could get there at this price with Deebo out of the lineup this week, more than likely.
I can see that.
So I don't hate him this week.
Okay.
Kind of think he's a sneaky play.
That's a good point.
In the report,
I'll
have the science behind it.
Yes, and so remember, the OSG always gives a detailed report every week. You just check it out. Search our Twitter at Unfair Sports. That will give you a link directly to it. He always provides you with all the details that we don't talk about today. This is more so your overview because we're talking for an hour, and we don't want to bore y'all for 3 hours talking about it like some of the other pros. But once we become pros at this, don't worry. We will bore you for 2.5 hours.
He double digit his last 2 weeks. He's got 6 and 7 targets, and he had 8 and 7 a few weeks before that. So 4 out of the last 5 games, he's in double digits, and that's with Samuel in the lineup.
Yep.
So 5, 6. A lot of people I think will play Renfrow. Ayuk's the pivot at 5-6.
That's a good point.
Yep.
Now let's move on to the next one. We have tight ends and the defenses. So quickly on the tight ends,
3,
what
4,
you
5.
looking
I got
at?
5 of them. Of course, we've talked about Gronk.
Yes, we know
we
Gronk.
have talked about the Gronkinator.
Eat.
So I heard somebody say that Mike Evans and Freiermuth have the same mother because all they do is score touchdowns. And so Freiermuth, you look at Freiermuth's game log, and again, we think that we can't play guys because
we don't know him. We don't know the name.
Well, no, because Ben is so bad.
Well, that Ben is awful.
But Eric, as long as Ebron remains out now.
Freiermuth has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 double-digit games at 4,200. 4 of the last 5 games, he's gotten at least 11 points or more. He had 14 and 11.
Look at the touchdown
and a touchdown.
Log.
He's had 5 touchdowns in the last 5 games.
And that's coincided with Eric Ebron out of the lineup. So you see what that is. 1 touchdown, 2 touchdowns. None, but he had 5 catches and 31 yards. 9 targets. Well, he's a tight end.
And he fumbled the ball, which is what hurt him the most.
Exactly.
But in touchdowns back-to-back weeks.
Up, touchdown.
But at 4,200, that's pretty solid, especially if you need like an additional. I like tight ends in the flex because I know that you sometimes need to get that last piece in, that cheap play. Freiermuth gives you that based upon the way they play.
So another tight end I like, again, the weather. Well, he's so expensive, though.
Who?
Zach Ertz, if Kyler came back.
It hurts when I flirt.
Goddard at 4 or 5, he's so expensive. So Logan Thomas is supposed to come back, but the ones that's really on my list. So Jared Cook, he's cheap, and he just continues to. Again, he's just in this offense, and like Mike Williams just isn't producing in for them anymore for whatever reason. So
I know why. People start putting him in their lineup. That's why.
Yeah, you're right.
That's what he does.
You're
as
right.
soon as everybody starts picking his ass up, what does he do?
Yeah.
Forgets how to play the game again.
And so, honestly, I started when I was digging deep into the Chargers, like they're turning into the Vikings. Like it's Eckler because they don't have any backup running backs.
Nope.
It's Keenan Allen because Mike Williams didn't do anything, and then it's Jared Cook.
Yep.
And that's it. He had 10 fantasy points last week. He had a touchdown. The floor is there. He's only 3-1. He's
cheap.
He's cheap.
She's a good value for those, especially if you, like I said, we're building a Jonathan Taylor or a Cooper Kupp lineup, and you need the cheap guys. Yeah. Some of these tight ends are some of your better people to look at.
If he isn't cheap enough for you, let's go down to Foster Moreau. We talked about.
Ooh, really?
Yeah, take it off. Darren Waller's not going to play, part and likely. And last time he missed, I think it was that Philly game. We look at that game log: 6 catches, 60 yards, and a touchdown.
Yep,
that's the no Waller game. And then he even caught a touchdown a couple weeks ago against Cincinnati, and that's with
Waller playing.
With Waller playing. Saw 5 targets against Dallas. Didn't I think he might have almost had like a touchdown taken in that Dallas game. But don't hold me to that either.
Okay.
But Waller played a lot of that game. Then he comes in, but saw 5 targets after Waller went down. Only had 1 catch, but I do think against this Washington, I think he's in play because again, Waller's out now. Especially if you count, like, say Deshaun Jackson missed.
Yeah.
Now we're down to Renfro, Zay Jones, and Foster Moreau in the running game, which is getting muddy at the running game because Jalen Richard came back. He out targeted Kenyon Drake. You got Josh Jacobs. So, and then if that is not frisky enough for you,
I want to go super frisky.
the worst play on the slate belongs to the Jacksonville Jaguars. O'Shaughnessy.
I'm looking right at him right now. I was about to say he is.
Dan Arnold's done for the season.
Oh, snap. Done. I didn't know that.
He's done.
I know he was out.
Well, I don't know season, but he's on IR. He's done. He's not.
He's done for the year then.
He's playing this week. He's not playing this week.
He's done for the year then.
And he went down. This late in the season. It's over.
Yeah, there's no point.
He went down mid-game last week. O'Shaughnessy stepped in, 5 targets, 3 catches, 7
I do remember him getting
points.
Hurt. Yeah.
So, I talked earlier in the season because when you look at the bottom of the game log, he came out of the gate with 8 targets with 6 catches. And then he goes down.
I think he got hurt, didn't he?
Yeah, and then somebody else came in even before Arnold. And like each week,
basically hurt.
Each week Jacksonville uses their tight ends basically.
Yeah,
and it's been 3 different ones.
It's mainly because it's a quick dump off for your quarterback.
Yeah, he's terrible.
He's your safety blanket. And I don't call him terrible. He's a rookie, and he's also a god awful offense
with a terrible coach. So honestly, I'm with you. I don't think Trevor Lawrence is a terrible quarterback.
I don't think he's a terrible quarterback. I think that he's playing bad because his circumstances is allowing that. It's going to force it.
Yeah, they want him. They wanted to give the ball to Agnew instead of Chenault.
It's like, to me, it's like a David Carr situation when he was in Houston. It's like either you're on your back nonstop, or the scheming with your coach is so awful that you're just getting killed. Mm-hmm. So and then of course everybody around you is just bad. So I think those dump offs to O'Shaughnessy is going to be. And that was actually I was looking at him, I was like, man, I think that he's gonna be a lot of dumps.
Yep, Gronk, Freiermuth, Cook, Moreau, O'Shaughnessy, and
O'Shaughnessy might do it.
You mentioned you threw somebody out there that I didn't hate. Who did you said somebody earlier? You talked about Jack Doyle in the Wentz stacks.
Yeah.
Logan Thomas is supposed to come back, and he is back because he played last week. Immediately got 6 targets. Game stacking. I think you can play Tyler Conklin anytime just to take a shot on him in lineups when the salary fits him.
Yeah.
So just have a reason to play the tight end, like because you like a game environment and you might be playing their quarterback.
I do like CJ Uzoma a little bit this week because he could be a good 3,200 play, especially going up against the Chargers, who likes to put out overall on
this
defense.
Game could either go slow or it could shoot out.
Yes. You don't know which one it's going to be.
We saw the Chargers in Pittsburgh have the shootout. We saw Cincinnati can get back and forth, that they start throwing big plays down the field to chase. So, although that's why I kind of, honestly, for all the reasons you said, it was Zuma, same reason I say Cook.
Yeah, good point.
Same reasons we like Mixon, you can go Eckler. We like Keenan Allen. We didn't put him in the top 5 because the receivers has been down. But I don't think nothing's wrong with Chase and T. Higgins. It's just the volume, and they've been running. And that's really it. So,
okay. All right, give me 2 defenses that you think we should go ahead and lock in this week, especially because, as we talked about in pre-production, this is a god-awful week for defenses, it feels like.
Right.
It just feels like it's all over the place.
Yeah, and I think that's because it's like we're so unsure where to go on offense, so it's like the less offense, like you actually should be looking at more defense. Like if you break down game by games, when you go through game by games and picking out players, when you don't pick out players, you should probably look at the defense. So, but the 2 defenses that I check mark are going to be the 49ers going up against Russ. I hate to target Russell Wilson, but like, golly.
He's the guy you target.
And San Francisco's quiet. They're kind of playing good football right now.
They are, Brand. And I was actually going to ask you about Brandon Ayuk before in the wide receiver segment. Because with Debo out.
Yeah, that's why I like him.
So San Francisco's defense is definitely something to consider. Yeah, because Russell Wilson is playing football right now.
Yeah.
And like you said, San Fran's playing good. Like, look at them defensively in their logs. Yeah. Last week wasn't too great against Minnesota. I'm not sure how that happened.
Because Minnesota plays in shootouts every single week.
That's true. And they were in Cali, so they play well. But the 2 weeks before against Jacksonville and the Rams, 16 points. Monday Night Football against the Rams. They beat up on
dominated them.
Stat Pafford.
Yeah. They gave up 28 to Russ earlier, but Russ, they not what they were earlier.
Oh, no, they're not the same team.
They're really not the same
team. There's no reason for them to lose this game. I put it like that.
Look at their game log. Don't even look at the fantasy point. Look at these sacks for the 49. 4, 2, 2, 3, 1.
They're hitting the quarterback.
Forced fumbles in each game.
Didn't Seattle lose an offensive lineman?
Probably.
I think they lost a lineman or two.
They lost everything.
They lost all hope at this point,
They lost all hope. They lost their mobbers.
Lord. I mean,
the other one that I checked, Mark, the Dolphins. We got Mike Glennon starting for the New York Giants this week, baby.
Oh boy!
And they have been
flying
playing.
Glennons.
They have been playing
the longest neck in NFL history.
They've been playing good defense. You look at their game logs the last 5 games: 5 sacks, 4 sacks, 2 sacks, 5 sacks. 3 forced fumbles over the past 4 weeks.
And at 2,700, that's a pretty good price.
They've had 2 games in the past 4 weeks with 3 interceptions. I mean,
they've had an interception every week except for week 3.
They have played some teams that sucks, but the Giants suck. They allowed 9 points to the Texans, 10 to Baltimore, 17 to the Jets, 10 to Carolina. Now they suck. Those teams are not good,
right?
But hey, the Giants aren't good either. So you can fit them in that category to go out here and dominate a less talented team.
That's a good point.
Control the ball, control the clock. We talked about Tua. We didn't really talk about Gaskin in the running game in Miami, but like this is a game Miami probably will go out here and win at home.
Yeah, and a way for you to win, checking us out here, is to check out the OSG report. It's written up every week on the Medium page, so make sure you tune into that.
So cheat code for defense is to play the team against the Jets every week.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And this week leads you to the Philadelphia Eagles. We talked about the running game. We like stacking running backs in their defenses. And like this could be run the ball and keep the ball away from the Jets. And when the Jets have the ball, it's just sacks and almost interceptions. So I don't hate them. They're priced higher than the 49ers in Miami. So that kind of is a little bit of it. They priced up at 36, which is, but hey, Philadelphia Eagles, their defense actually been playing good. They had a couple of weeks I've actually been playing them. I've been playing them the last 3 weeks actually, and they had 15 against Denver, 11 against New Orleans, only got 5 against the Giants, but they only allowed 13 points. They just didn't have any interceptions, only had 1 sack. But Daniel Jones, it was a 13-7 game. It wasn't like a back and forth, a bunch of pass attempts. The Eagles just ran the clock out. That's all they did. That's all they've been doing too. So, but hey,
playing the Jets.
That's just
go ahead and just take that team and enjoy the spoils of that one. So, okay, again, like I said, the write up from the OSG report on the Medium page. Check it out. That's where you get all of the additional content and details. So she does a really good write-up. Yes. You are one of the top contributors to the NFL on Medium right now.
Yes.
So
and use the article for all kinds of things. Like I had a guy hit me and he made all his money on player props. He was matching up with what the article was saying on players and taking certain players' prop. He was, picking out the guys that we were talking about in great spots and betting the over on the player. And
smart.
Over on the player props and crushed. So that's kind of a different aspect that a lot of fantasy guys have been doing, especially as it begin legal prize picks and stuff like that. And so you can use it in a plethora of ways. You can use it to pick out players on your season long, the waiver wire, when you kind of look at these guys filling in roles for, guys that's injured. Mm-hmm. So you can use it for your set. It can help you in your season long process. And then, like I said, the player props and even those lines and those takes. Once you kind of look at these defense, like at the end of the week, once you look at that and you're like, this defense going to crush, and then you're looking at lines to take, like, there's no way this team should cover this line after digging into it like this from an individual matchup. So you can use it in different aspects.
Correct.
Use it in different ways.
So take the information, get it together, use it,
make
that money. So, all right, we do this every week.
Oh yes,
Favorite thing is the PHrozen features. Yes. And the PHrozen features here, these are the hottest of hot takes. So cold that burn you.
So cold it's almost December 4th.
Almost December 4th. It's coming up. 1906. Yes. It's our day. So we're going to freeze you out with the PHrozen features. OSG, I'm going to give you 5 positions, a stat line. You tell me who it is. Okay. On all of these, they need to be outside of your top 3.
Okay.
And it's on the spot. I don't want him to think about it. He knows what's coming every week.
Or the top 3 price outside of my 3.
Outside of your 3.
Gotcha.
So you can use the high price guys if you want to, but the ones that we've pulled out. Okay. So you ready?
All right.
Quarterback, who's going to get us 250 and 3 touchdowns?
So a guy that wasn't in my top plays. Because we talked about him pre-show, he has such a terrible game that Lamar Jackson could bounce back as the highest priced quarterback, and nobody's going to play him this week.
That's true.
It's a division game against Pittsburgh, but Cincinnati proved that between Cincinnati stomping them and Baltimore stomping Cincinnati earlier in the season, this game going away. And if Big Ben come out here and just turns the ball over at the 40-yard line, like Lamar Jackson, and with him, the 250 made his stat line. It could come from everywhere, but I think he could have a big game, and we're not on him much very easily. Great tournament play this week, I think. Great tournament play. Okay. And when that 250 and 3, easy to stack with Hollywood and Bateman and and the other guy. Well, I'll save that call when we get to tight end.
All right, so. Yes. Running back, who's going to get us 150 yards and 2 touchdowns?
So being that Taylor, Mixon, and Madison and Mitchell were kind of my ties for these top 3, I'm going to go in the same game. I'm going on the opposite side of Mixon. I'm going to go Eckler. And it could come in, they've been actually using him a lot. They have been, but, he's just heavily involved. He's getting the ball. You look at this game, these last 2 weeks, it's not the rushing. It's only 11 and 50 carries, but it's 2 touchdowns.
Yep.
It's 12 and 31 yards, but he's got 6 catches the last 2 games in each of the game, and 4 touchdown reception in the past 3 games, 1, 2, and 1. So it can be 150 multi-purpose yards and 2 touchdowns.
Yeah.
And I think we take Austin Eckler.
So you're going with the multi-purpose on him. Okay. On him, yeah. I appreciate that.
Yeah, especially in the in these PPR stand, them 6 catches and 69 yards and reception touchdowns. That's valuable.
That's a good point.
It's valuable.
Wide receiver, who's going to get us 150 yards and 2 touchdowns as well?
So we had a top 5 receiver. So are we outside of the 5?
You know what? I'll let you go in the 5.
And what was the stat line again?
150, 2 touchdowns. 150, 2 tutties.
It's 2 of them. But nope. Okay. I'm going back to Mike Evans.
Who do you think Evans is finally going to do it?
Really just Atlanta. It's the matchup.
Yeah.
And the ones I was going to say, because they were so, the McLaurin in that stack, Jefferson, just because everybody's going to play Madison.
Yeah.
That, that's like the tournament play is Jefferson because everybody's on Madison. But the Brady Evans stack busted for me last week. And you heard, if Brady throws for 390 yards, how's Evans not have 150?
Good point. Okay, tight end, 100 yards.
So
keep it simple.
Since he's not on our list, that means that it's Lamar and Mark Andrews. He threw 4 interceptions because he kept trying to throw it at Mark Andrews and they was double teaming him. He wants to throw it there.
That's his favorite guy. That's his security blanket.
And so Pittsburgh, we just don't know what to expect out of him. And because when you look at 100 yards, you got to find where a tight end is even in their range of outcome at tight end this week.
That's true.
We got no Kelsey, Waller's done, Kittle maybe. Kyle Pitts doesn't want to do it anymore, mainly because of Matt Ryan.
Yep.
Give me Mark Andrews for that.
Okay. Defense, special teams. Which one's going to score a touchdown? Either return or is it going to be an interception? Don't matter. Which defense special teams gets us a tutty?
2 teams are going to score touchdowns this week. One of them will be the Philadelphia Eagles.
Who do you think the Eagles are going to score?
they're going to score because the Jets, they're just, oh my God.
They just like giving the ball away.
Yeah, God. It's like, I don't even know who's going to play quarterback. It's Zach Wilson. And I'm like, unless it's Joe Flacco, it doesn't even matter. I hate to say that. Like, their best bet, honestly, like, Joe Flacco and Jamison Crowder is like the best thing going for them. So as long as these other bums are in, like,
crazy thing is their defense has 3 touchdowns in the last 5 weeks.
Exactly.
So it kind of works out perfectly.
That's why I said I've been playing them like they hot right now, and then they get this nut matchup against the Jets of all team. And the other team I was gonna say was really one of my hot teams. They have 2 in the last 3 weeks, and that's the Dolphins. They get Mike Glennon. You know, like just pick on New York this week. Like, this is East Coast, West Coast rivalry here. Like, just play against New York this week.
Just go up against New York.
Just go up against New York this week. What's going to happen in Chicago if Kyler don't play? I think he's going to play, though, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I expect Kyler to play.
He should play, so it doesn't matter. Colts could do it against Houston, of course.
Yeah, that's a good point.
You know, like there's some legit bad teams to kind of pick on this week, I think, at defense. That's why I think every week at defense, if you find your reason to play it, even if it's Detroit because they're just absolutely that cheap, and you think that it'll be 19-17 again.
Good point. Yeah, 19-17 does sound like a score I can expect out of those doofuses.
Captain Kirk.
God,
Captain
I hate
Kirk Cousins
so much.
Oh, it's such a good matchup in this dome against it's a few domes this week, so like dig into it, like, you know, so
especially in this weather now, it's getting to the where this
that's
is
important in fantasy.
Yeah, that those quarterbacks appreciate being in that warm dome and be able to really light it up. So in these 3 games in the dome in the cold, there's a difference.
There is a difference.
A difference in their game. So
especially when you got a lot of old guys on the team, a lot of veterans,
a lot of age, in which. We mentioned about Tom Brady. I think that's what's going to make him jump out. It's going to be the fact that he's playing in the South now, and he last year put up 399 yards against the Falcons at their crib, and the Falcons are just as bad, if not worse.
And you really want Atlanta to like do something offensively. To make Brady, like, to make them to keep playing. Please, Patterson and Pitts, like, do something. You know,
like get the stick.
Or like, and Matt Ryan, like, you know, don't try. And I don't think that they will, because they don't like line up and run the ball with Patterson. They design stuff to get him the ball in the open field.
And that Patterson just do his work.
It's just hard to attack Tampa Bay with these receivers, because Atlanta they don't have any receivers like Zacchaeus, Gage, Kyle Pitts is their receiver.
Got Ridley.
I guess Ridley. That really just
that's what killed them.
Any functionality of them. Like, when you look at Matt Ryan's game log, it's like we can't tell if it's Ridley or if it's the defenses that he started to run against. Like, he was hot, but then, you know, he ran into Dallas, New England, Carolina, and New Orleans, and he just fell off.
Sounds about right.
He actually threw 343 against New Orleans, to tell you the truth, but and Miami, they actually got a good defense. So he had all these games, but then, I mean, last week, Dallas, New England, you know, he should have had a better game against Jacksonville. They actually kind of was in control of that game. That's why you see Cordell Patterson have such a good game. But,
and this is the reason why we're evaluating Matt Ryan at the end of the show.
I know, right?
He's just that bad.
Yeah, we just want him to do. We just want him. We're
taking the stick and we're poking his body. Just do something.
It was in trash time, but he did throw 300 against Tampa Bay earlier this year. I remember that now that I look at that score. It ended up being like 48-25, and he got there in trash time with 46
Dude,
attempts.
He's 56.
Yeah.
He's had 1 week of 30 points this season.
He's got 22, 24, 29, and 22.
Bro.
Yeah, no, I'm not going to.
Last 5 weeks.
Terrible.
3 single-digit games.
Yeah.
At quarterback.
Yep. 4 games with less than 200 yards.
He's thrown 4 of the last 5 games. He hasn't even cracked 200 yards.
Nope. And did that in week 1 also.
God, Matty Ice is horrible.
Against Philadelphia's defense. Hint, hint.
Wink, wink. Nudge.
Wink.
Flipping nudge.
Yeah.
Okay, so, well, with that, we appreciate y'all joining us as usual here on Unfair Sports, our special fantasy edition with the OSG. Please check out the write-up on Medium. And please like, subscribe, share, comment. Let us know how we're doing. Hit us up on Instagram and all that jazz as well. So, for Mike, Bob, and Wendy, thank you so much for doing your thing on the back end side. For the OSG, I will have myself a special episode come out this weekend as well. I'm going to talk about college football changes. I'm going to talk about some more fantasy, give you my Frozen 5, figure out if I can actually get something right. God, I love it.
Lincoln right.
I love the drama. I love the drama behind it.
USC.
Oh,
I like it.
Love it. Just injected in my brain.
Yeah.
So, with that, we will chop it up with y'all in a few days. Peace.